Welcome back. This is Christopher Bowen with Phantom Gardens. This is chapter 55, one of my favorite chapters, and it kind of ties together everything that the novel has been building towards. So it's one of my favorites. Meanwhile, at the Ben David Institute, Joshua Eyre was busy watching the news on television. He knew now that Mashiach must be the one to defeat Santander, but he knew the Mashiach could not be in two places at once. Since Eyre was in Israel, he could only make phone calls to see if anyone wanted to declare themselves the Mashiach. And yet he did not commit to making phone calls. He only stared at the television, flipping between news channels about the temple and the fiendish archbishop. Then he had an idea. He rushed down to the genetics lab. His pulse was throbbing in his chest. The thought of finally finding the Mashiach kept him going. He knew what to do now. Once inside the genetics lab, he searched through a database. He knelt down to pray after seeing what he saw. Joshua Eyre, he said his own name out loud to the computer, that futuristic of modern souls. Dear God, I am an observant Jew. I do not want power for power's sake. I'm a descendant of both David and Solomon. I will do my best to rely on God in all things, and to teach Torah to the world in depths not yet fathomed. If I am acting in error, please guide me right. As he had finished praying, Rosenstein and Jude burst into the lab. They saw Mr. Eyre kneeling down in prayer. Rosenstein broke the silence. Is it worth dying for? It was I who contacted Santander 5 years ago. It was I who read his papers. Your secret ambition to declare yourself Mashiach is now mine to shame you for. What are you talking about? Eyre replied. I gave Santander's papers to the Institute to track down any Jew who wanted to be Mashiach. You will indeed be Mashiach, but you will be on my leash. I know your innermost thoughts, and I will blackmail you. Power is worthy for power's sake. In that moment, Jude rushed to Eyre's side and prepared to confront Rosenstein, the man he had trusted. You worked with the Archbishop to control people. Mashiach will come in his own peaceful way. Mr. Eyre is a decent Jew and human being. He will be Mashiach, and you will not. Turn the page. After Jude had turned against Rosenstein, the old man pulled out a gun and held it steadily pointed at Jude. He then moved his aim to Eyre, but Jude was faster than him. Jumping into the bullet's path, Jude took a bullet for the man he believed could be, and exceed at, being Mashiach. In the flurry of the moment, Eyre knew his first task was to disarm Rosenstein. He jumped over Jude's questionably lifeless body and rushed at Rosenstein. Rosenstein got one more bullet loose, which impacted Eyre's shoulder, but Eyre was now on top of the old man and battering him with his fist. It is Jews like you who give us a bad name. You have no place in the world to come, but Jude and your daughter will. And after yelling that at Rosenstein, Eyre had taken the gun and now had it pointed at him. Eyre continued to speak, this time pressing the record button on his phone. I am here to talk to Jews and non-Jews alike. I have known for quite some time now what destiny God had blessed me with. God is fulfilling his promises to his people. But before we can move on to the next world, we must make peace with our current world. There is a priest, a very good priest, who made a grave mistake that cost the life of a boy's father. He is aboard the ship with the Santander. His name is Paul Manson. Before I begin my reign, I want him and the world to know that he is a contrite man, and he will have a place. You will forgive him also, as does God. Eyre staggered with a magnetic aura, sweat trickling down his forehead, swaying like an old Pentecostal preacher unleashing Hashem's glory. And to the boy who has lived without his parents, you have no idea what good things await you in the world we will build. But being a Jew does not guarantee entry into our new world. This man in front of me, Rosenstein, has consorted with the church to blackmail the papacy also. This treachery signals the end of the church. Any and all Christians, Muslims, or people in general who will not have war or strife, they may live in Olam Haba, the world to come.